Tonight, students debate about the ethics of free speech on campus.
And protesters march in California for Stephen Clark.
And we'll talk about ASWSU leaders' response to protests. Murrow News 8 starts right now.
From Studio B on the campus of Washington State University, this is Pullman's only nightly newscast. This is Murrow News 8.
Good evening. I'm Jesse Maywald.
And I'm Brooke Wolford. Welcome to Murrow News 8.
The recent president and vice president-elects for the Associated Students of Washington State University position remain under crisis. This is due to a violation made by a member of their campaign during the election. Charlie Nelson joins us to talk about the recent protests. Charlie?
Thank you, Jesse. A small group of students staged a sit-in before an ASWSU Senate meeting because a member of their campaign used Resident Life resources to print campaign posters during their election. For many demonstrators, it was about accountability, and they don't believe the measure of finding them $165 is enough.
And how did Savannah and Tyler respond?
They agreed printing the posters stole money from students, and this isn't okay. So they did not hang the posters. Savannah says, quote, "The bridge was burned and students don't trust us," end quote. She also says changing their minds needs to begin with listening to what the demonstrators and other students say. Charlie Nelson, Murrow News 8.
Over at the University of Idaho, an update on former U of I football player who police arrested more than 5 years ago. U of I officials now say the Moscow Police Department never informed the university of sexual harassment allegations against Jari Level, who allegedly purchased alcohol for 2 underage women and had sex with a highly intoxicated 19-year-old in 2012.
Threats to speech on college campuses concern more people than just the demonstrators protesting ASWSU. Dax McCoy attended a speech to learn more about how public universities can handle the free speech issues students face.
Speech, an action heavily protected under the First Amendment in the Constitution, faces scrutiny from those who seek to enforce morality. Chancellor of the University of California, Irvine, Howard Gilman, traveled to WSU to educate the public and how public universities can address growing concerns regarding hate speech.
Free speech is essential to the development of freedom of thought. If someone else is controlling the range of opinion you're exposed to, then your thoughts are not your own, and you lose the ability to assess competing points of view and develop your own worldview.
Dr. Gilman says people view the case for censorship in a current situation as a one-time issue. For example, imagine the neo-Nazis hold a rally to let their ideas be heard. Most people might find their ideas disturbing. But if the school censors them, what's to stop them from censoring somebody else that's controversial? Somebody you might agree with. Many students agreed with Dr. Gilman's assessment of speech rights, but one student believed his words struck a partisan nerve.
While the radical left may not dominate politics in the traditional sense of owning the most seats in the Democratic Party, their ideas, their philosophers, their strategies have vastly overtaken what we see as most acceptable left-wing thought.
Some attendees felt hate speech should not get protection due to the ideas producing terrorism, bigotry, and other violence. None of these individuals, however, would accept an interview. Dax McCoy, Murrow News 8.
New York Times journalists spoke last night at the University of Idaho, and Matt Money went to find out his take on journalism in the world of fake news.
New York Times reporter Adam Goldman spoke to the University of Idaho last night with the theme, reporting on the president, spies, and why the truth matters.
I think it's important to help restore trust in journalism, to see a working professional telling us about the standards that they use when they're reporting.
Hindman says society needs unbiased journalism.
Throughout history, we've had times when journalism has been very important, and I think it feels important to us, but I think it's always important.
Adam Goldman addressed the University of Idaho on issues in journalism like fake news and truthfulness in government.
The New York Times journalist says the government will not necessarily tell the truth.
The state is lost, And that ultimately means there will be more fake news, which is a loss not just for the government and the press, but more importantly for you, for the public at large.
He also stated his mistrust for not only the Trump administration, but all administrations, citing as a journalist, he needs to be skeptical.
The individual that we have here is so knowledgeable, has such experience, and it's a rich experience not only for students here at the University of Idaho, but WSU as well.
Goldman also opened the floor for a Q&A for those in attendance. A University of Idaho student says Goldman's speech made her think of how to consume news differently.
You know, it's a lot better to trust like more established newspapers and social media.
Matt Money, Murrow News 8.
When we come back, Russia expels U.S. ambassadors from the country.
And we tell you more about the officer-involved shooting in Kentucky. More when we come back.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it, I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
The great outside.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
So shiny.
We both love the outdoors.
That's not a flower.
And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
If you want to be a parent, it doesn't matter how you play or even what you wear. You just need to be there. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you.
A man impersonating law enforcement shot and killed an off-duty officer in southwestern Kentucky yesterday. James Kidorsi pulled over Philip Meacham in his personal vehicle in Hopkinsville. DeChorsey shot Meacham and fled the scene. He then stole a white Chevy pickup, and authorities found him in Clarksville, Tennessee.
This evening, approximately 5:10, a Hopkinsville police officer was shot. He was transported to Jenny Stewart Medical Center, where he did succumb to his injuries.
I couldn't see it.
This evening, approximately
when law enforcement found DeCourcy at a hotel in Clarksville, the confrontation escalated and police shot and killed him. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said it will investigate the circumstances under which police killed DeCourcy.
A follow-up from a report we gave you last week. A crowd gathered at a Sacramento church yesterday to celebrate the life of a 22-year-old man police shot and killed March 18th. Sacramento police shot Stephen Clark in his backyard when they mistook Clark's cell phone for a gun. Clark's brother Stevante expressed great sorrow and grief during the ceremony, prompting attendee Reverend Al Sharpton to console him as crowds broke out in protest.
It's time for preachers to come out the pulpit. It's time for politicians to come out their office. It's time for us to go down and stop this madness.
About 100 protesters blocked streets outside the event for a third day in a row during rush hour. Stevante Clark asked the crowds not to block the entrance to the Kings NBA game, as crowds did in the past. About 500 people attended the funeral. President Donald Trump over 60 U.S. diplomats were expelled from the St. Petersburg consulate in response to a similar move made by the states. The ministry ordered the diplomats to leave the country by April 5th. The U.S. State Department says, quote, Moscow should not act like a victim, end quote. Russia's government took defensive actions after over 20 countries that removed their diplomats, expelling over 100 in total. This move acts as a potential retaliation from the U.S., releasing 60 Russian diplomats earlier this week.
Over in Ireland, Good Friday might have gotten a little better. For the first time in almost 100 years, lawmakers in Ireland lifted a ban preventing alcohol distributors from selling alcoholic beverages on Good Friday. Usually people choose to stay home and stock up on drinks for the holiday, but some people might just choose to go to one of the open bars to celebrate for the first time. This morning, we woke up to a few clouds and a light breeze. When we come back, Casey Shaneline will let you know if you should bring an umbrella this Easter weekend with tonight's 5-day forecast.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Easter weekend brings families together to hunt for eggs. Casey Shaneline joins us to let you know if the Easter egg hunts will need to be moved inside. Casey?
Thanks, Jesse. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited. Looking forward to Easter and what that'll bring. Hopefully the weather behaves, but more on that later. What you need to know about today. As you can see, we did have some sun, but it was cloudy and quite windy, and that's similar to the rest of eastern Washington, as you can see, with Spokane and Pullman staying in the mid-50s. It's still pretty cold, but let's check out central Washington. Yakima got up to 67 degrees. I know our spring sports fans are really going to enjoy that sunshine. As we look into tomorrow, you can see it's going to be sunny, still cloudy and cold, and still windy. So if the Easter Bunny is packing those eggs, he's going to want to keep those pretty heavy so that they don't roam around everywhere. And as we can head into the 5-day forecast, what you're really going to want to know about this week is that on Monday, we might see some snow showers, but it's not going to stick. It's not cold enough. Hopefully you guys have a great Easter weekend. Back to you guys at the desk.
When we come back, Ian Smay joins us to talk about what to expect in WSU's Cougar Corner.
I wonder what we can expect from him.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
On today's Cougar Corner, we give you a look at this week in WSU sports, and we look ahead to the weekend as multiple sports travel out of town. We also give you an update on MLB's opening weekend and a look at some changes around the NFL and the NBA. Stay tuned, you won't want to miss this episode.
Well, that should be good. Some sports. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, a lot of different sports going on.
Yeah, a lot of spring sports are in full swing this week.
Did
a
you
lot of
see
people
that
traveling out
WSU
this
game
weekend.
last night? Extra innings. Extra
Walk-off,
innings, but we got the
a walk-off shot. We'll be talking about that in the show tonight.
Yeah, oh good. I'm excited to see some highlights on that game. That was exciting.
And the Mariners are finally starting up again.
Well, thanks for watching. Join us every weeknight at 7 and 10 p.m. And we'll see you for the sports show.
Have a great night, and remember to follow us on Murrow News 8, Facebook, and Twitter.